So welcome again to Aki's Programming, and here we are back on our SQL after a very long break. So today we are going to do constraints. So let's just get into it. So the first constraint we are going to talk about is primary key. So let's just list out. Second one will be our check constraint, and third one we are going to talk will be not null, I believe, or unique. And at the end we'll be just discussing about the simple not null constraint, which is basically very simple. And there is also one more constraint, which is our foreign key. Wait a second, I did a spelling mistake. Foreign key. But in this lecture we are not going to talk about the foreign key. That will be for the next lecture. So today we are just going to discuss about these four constraints. So without wasting our time, let's get started with it. So basically we'll just start with the creating a table. So if you have watched my last tutorials or you have any experience with SQL, then you know how to create a table. And if you don't, you can just check out any videos on YouTube, or you can just check out my own video on SQL. So this is how basically you create a table, and we'll just name the column EMPNO, and number will be the data type, and the size will be 5. Okay, so now we'll just create another column. We'll just basically create 3 to 4 columns so that we can have a proper table. Varchar2, I'll just keep it to somewhere 25. Go on, then we'll just keep it as salary. Number, precision would be 7, and the scale would be 2. Okay, so now at the end we'll just say department number. Department number should be somewhere around 3 to 4, not more than that. 5. Okay, semicolon. The table is now been created. So now what we are going to do is to understand how do we define the primary key. So primary key is basically defined on two different ways. First is column level, and the second one is table level. So table level. Okay, so how do we define primary key at column level? So we'll just simply write over here primary key. So this is our primary key at column level. So now if we just create our table by running it, it says okay, perfect, it run without any errors. So now if we try to describe it, okay, so it probably throw an error because this compiler doesn't support this disk keyword. I don't know why. So we'll just start by select star from emp. So we'll just see this, and it will say no rows. Okay, perfect, it doesn't have any given values. So we'll just insert some values in it by saying insert into emp. Now let's just insert certain values in it. So we'll just add a number, then there is varchar2. So inside single quote we'll just say a key, then salary should be of 7 digits, or probably 5 would be good enough, because after 2 that's not going to work. So we'll just say department number 12. Okay, perfect. Now let's just run the program. It's perfect. Now we'll just write our statement, which is select star from emp. So if we just say select star from emp, okay, then semicolon, and now if we run the program, it runs very perfectly. But what if we just try to input the same data again, like the same data insert into, and the only problem with this compiler is that it doesn't allow copy paste. And even the SQL, the Oracle system doesn't allow you to copy paste inside it, because it is just like the command prompt. Or you can do copy paste, but it is not preferable. You can do things on notepad and then copy and paste. That is more preferable and more enjoyable. So we'll just put on a semicolon, and now if you run the program, it will say throw an error by saying unique constraint, because it doesn't allow to have same to same data, just because we added a primary key into the table. So the duplication of records is not allowed in here. So we'll just remove this, remove that, remove this too, So now since we have checked the primary key, now we are good to go to another key, which will be say for an example, what should we check on to? We'll just go to table level primary key at the table level, which is the same. We'll just say em piano. So this is basically how you define primary key at the table level. The same thing in this too. So I'm just not going to show up an example because you can just try it at your home on your compiler. So let's just remove this, and now we'll move on to another key. So let's just make it as it is, primary key. Now it's time, say for an example, now we'll just go to not null. So not null, what does not null do? It just says to user that you need to put on some values in it. You just can't keep it empty, you need to add on something. Okay, so if we add not null to name, which makes more sense because you cannot keep your name as null value, you need to put on name. Every employee has a name. If we put on a null in department number, that would be good enough, but name should be very important. So we'll just add on some values in it, one, then let's just say null in this one. And now if we add this is 1200 and something, 10, 12, whatsoever, 12, 1, and run the program, it says null constraint failed because we added a null value into the name column. So that is what this does. It throws an error when you put on a null value. So if we remove this and say our key, and now if I add null to the salary, do you think it will give me an error? No, it does not. It just gives me error because the e name has not null constraint. So this was basic about the not null constraint. You can use it a lot more times if you are creating a real-time project. Okay, so now what should we go on to? And this is a point you should remember: not null can only be defined at column level. It cannot be defined at table level. It cannot be done as a primary key. You cannot just define it at a table level. The only way to define a not null is at column level, or else you need to modify. Okay, so now let's just create one more thing. For example, we can use a check constraint over here too. So say for an example, we'll just keep it to as it was at not null, not null. Now we'll just put on check constraint over salary. So now say for an example, we want to check whether the salary of these all employees should be somewhere around something. So we'll just say salary should be 5,000 or something. Okay, not 500. Just keep it 500. And now if I just pull the salary to somewhere 200 and now run the program, it will throw an error, say the constraint failed, check constraint failed. So this is what it throws an error. So now if you just increase the value, then it will don't throw an error. So we'll just create one more table to understand it pretty much better. So create table student, then we'll just add on a bit more data over here, saying student number, start number. So let's just add some data saying student, and now we'll just add a number, student number. Every student has a number. So now our table is ready. I just skipped it. So now we'll use the check constraint that the fees that are collected from the students should not be less than somewhere around 5 to 6,000. So I'll just say check the fees. Okay, so fees should not be less than somewhere, say for an example, 5,000. And now we'll just insert into student. Now if we insert data into the students saying values, then we'll just give one number. A student name should be Kaki. Why? Now I'll just say, So now if we add 1,000 over here and run the program, it throws an error saying check constraint failed because the fees are lesser than 5,000. So if we just keep it 6,000 and now run it, it throws no error. This is how it works. The check constraint works this way, and this is how it works. So this was all the basics about check constraint that you probably needed to know. So we'll just now move to our last constraint, which is unique. This is somewhat very similar to the primary key. So we'll just now be discussing about the unique constraint, which is done through the unique keyword. So we'll just say unique. This is now unique. So inside unique you cannot have the duplications. So if I just mention it at the table level, it can also work like this too. It can work on both column and table level. So now if we just try to insert certain values inside it, so we'll just say insert into student values. I'll just say one bracket 2. Inside that I'll say a key, and inside single quotes I'll say a key, and the number I'll just say 1,000. And now I'll just put on the same thing over here too. What do you think it should do? Throw an error? Okay, let's just see. Say the same thing, a key with 1,000. If we run the program now, after putting semicolons, it runs. Bam, unique constraint failed. So it says that there's a duplication of records. So this was all about the unique constraint, the primary keys and stuff, all of those constraints. So now we're just wrapping it up, and now we're just going to go through the backwards. Now we'll just take a revision of what we have did all the way along. So the first thing, okay, just erase this all. So the first thing we did was primary, the second we did was unique key, and then we also did the not null constraint. Then what did else we do? We did check constraint. So the first thing, that primary and unique key. So what is the difference between both? So the primary key works on the whole row level. It checks the value of the whole row. However, the unique key just check the value of a specific column. So this is just for certain specific values, like you can give it to some usernames or email IDs. So this is the essence of unique key. Then there is check, which is there to check certain conditions. Then there is not null, which doesn't allow any null values inside our our value tables or values or records, whatever you say it. Primary key. So the duplication of records is not allowed in both of the keys. The duplications of records are not allowed in both of them. Then there is one more difference between the primary key and the unique key, that not null values are not allowed inside primary key. You cannot just have a null value inside a primary key, but you can have null values in the unique key. And there is one more thing that you need to understand, that primary key, you can only have one primary key at a table, and for unique you can have multiple. So this was all of it. See you guys in the next one.